With cloud computing, we face a revolution as radical as the introduction of the personal computer. And tomorrow's open cloud will need open standards to meet those challenges. And that's the job of the CloudEthernet Forum, or CEF. Here's the CEF's president, James Walker, to explain.
A big challenge is trying to develop standards more quickly. We know that typically in a standards organization it can take you 2 to 4 years to develop a standard. That's really not appropriate as a time frame for a cloud environment. We need to see things in 6 to 8 months, which is a typical development cycle for a software project. So one thing is trying to bring the time that it takes to develop that standard down. The second thing is we're dealing with an enormously complicated environment with a lot of different parts. So there are network components, but there are also SDN, NFV components, there are enterprises in the mix, there are cloud service providers themselves, data center operators. No one person has expertise to define a standard that exists all the way from end to end. So we need to have an environment that we can test the standard that we're working on, make sure that it delivers some actual commercial value and that it in fact works from end to end, because otherwise it hasn't met its goal. And the final thing is we see also with standards that after you've waited your 2, 3, 4 years for the standard to actually arrive, then you need to wait 1 or 2 years for vendors to actually implement it in their equipment, and then you can start the product development process to actually build something on top of that standard. So nobody wants to wait 4 to 6 years to actually deliver something that might be useful in a cloud context. So by having a live environment with the reference architecture that we are actually developing the standard to, then it gives somewhere where people can connect their live development environment to and build their own products in parallel to the development of the standard and be able to instantaneously test that product against the standard. So speed to market for the standard, speed to market for the participants in the OpenCloud Forum, and hopefully a standard that actually works, robust and implementable from day one.
It's a big project. So what do the analysts think?
I think the principle of what CEF are trying to achieve is outstanding. When you look at the problem statements that we're going to face as more customers move to the cloud, more providers are concerned about any form of investment in the cloud, understanding and having clarity around, 1, the outcome, and 2, whether or not they're actually going to get a return on it, is critical. And as such, starting with a concept and then working with a community around that, a willing community, if they can achieve it, then power to them. I think we will be in a better place as an industry.
It has to happen. If you look at the problems that we're going to face with cloud as it moves forward, we really need to address interoperability. We really need to look at issues around applications management. And the thing that I do like about it is that it also brings in the OTT players, which a group that are going to be very disruptive. They're already disruptive to the marketplace. They're challenging the cloud guys already. It needed to happen, basically.
The whole movement towards open standards for the cloud providers is going to be driven by market imperatives that drive them towards the adoption of those standards. And at the moment, we've got major players in the public cloud space, as an example, who have got differing capabilities. There's differing requirements and different interfaces. If we look at other standards and the convergence towards those standards, I'd argue that many of those standards have been obeyed by the need for skilled personnel so that there was the widest possible pool, whether I be on one cloud platform or another. And I think the open cloud direction is going to be satisfied by that market push towards a common set of people and skills.
And what's the service provider view of the CEF?
If you look at the Open Cloud initiative and the CEF aspect in there, it's about being able to have the standards in place to allow different users, different vendors to coexist. And the ability to have this actually allows portability of applications across different cloud systems, which has been a bugbear. Looking at how can I change my cloud service provider in case I need to move from one to the other, and so far that's been very difficult. So that's one of the areas. The other aspect is the ability to also scale, right? CloudEthernet Forum, the ability to connect different data centers, allows the scalability of applications across different cloud systems as well. So the ability to coexist, the ability to port between different applications across different cloud systems, and also to extend, right? So these are the kind of areas where you would have the CEF being focusing on cloud.
The benefits of OpenCloud, the enterprises look into it for the agility, for the security is a big concern for them, like whether they will get secured or not. And I think the initiatives from the CloudEthernet forums, where they're trying to standardize, that will help to give these impressions to the enterprises. So and they can rely more on it, and of course that will of course helpful for the cost point of perspective, because if you have the standard APIs and not many different sets of APIs you have to play with, then your architecture can be simplified and you can predict your architectures and can predict your cost.
It's an interesting project, right? They're trying to bring some sort of standardization to a group right now that I don't think wants to be standardized and that doesn't know what they really need to standardize on. When we're working with applications and we're trying to deploy applications that are talking to the cloud, right? We have to write to, as someone said this morning, 400 different APIs in order to implement the solution. And if we can get some sort of clarity to that, I think it will greatly enhance the ability for customers to use that whole OpenCloud initiative. And that being said, standards take forever. And even though we're a carrier, I think I don't have time to wait. So I like the idea of being able to move quickly, and as long as we can move quickly through the standardization process, I think it's on the right track and we should be moving forward.
I'm quite excited about OpenCloud initiative actually, and I think it's something which is obviously been common as it relates to IP networks and the likes in the past, and that we really need to start looking more at standards. I know we've seen the Metro Ethernet Forum, we've seen forums around IP standardization, etc. This has been almost a while in coming. It's quite exciting to be able to bring the different players of the cloud market together to be able to go and say, how do we collaborate so we achieve the success for our customers as the ultimate goal, as opposed to creating all of these sort of isolated islands. So to be able to go and say to our customers, yes, these are the standards, doesn't matter what application you're running, what cloud environment it is, what the Ethernet network you're connecting it to, that's going to create greater efficiency and hopefully greater confidence in driving cloud adoption.
The CEF calls its cloud standard CloudE 1.0, and this is to emphasize that this is no static standard, but one that will evolve over time. James Walker explains.
I think one of the first realizations we came to is there is no point in us duplicating standards that exist in other bodies or trying to duplicate the work that is being undertaken in other standards bodies. So from the very beginning, CloudE 1.0 was seen as a container that included standards that in fact came from other parts of the standards world. So that was one important decision to make, that we're not going to try and make it a solely CEF environment. The second thing is that we wanted to take from the very beginning a very commercial approach to the whole thing. There is no point in developing a standard which then is either never implemented or it's just a nice thing to have but it has no commercial value. So from the very beginning we wanted CloudE 1.0 to talk about something that had commercial value. It became something that because I have that I can sell you something or you're able to buy something from me, that there is an exchange of finance that happens as a result of it, and that's very important to our members as well. So CloudE 1.0 defines really the minimum sellable product which has a set of standards around it. And then we will continue to evolve that through 1.1, 1.2, and then eventually to 2.0 and so on. And that's also an important part of it, that there will be iterative development of this. We can't just leave it still, it needs to keep moving forward. But we can certainly say that there will be pieces that are important that are contributed by others.
And what involvement do CEF members have in the development process?
At this point, Wedge has been very involved in it, and it kind of evolved from our founder and CEO, Dr. Hongwen Zhang, joining the CEF, and then shortly after being asked to be the chairman of the security for the CEF. And so that allows Wedge to have a very unique insight into helping decide what the future security is going to be for the Cloud Ethernet, what the standards should be, and he's kind of it finds us being a mediator between the manufacturers and the telcos and users on what is the best security solutions for the new Cloud Ethernet 1.0 standards.
So Tata is actually supporting the Cloud Ethernet Forum right from the initial stages. We are driving, or we would like to be in the forum for creating and formulating the standards that are behind the CEF as well as the cloud. So we launched our Cloud's Instacompute way back, I think almost 3.5 years ago with Instacompute, which is the IaaS platform. Back then, of course, there was really not much of standards in place. But looking at how we've been progressing forward, the ability again to be able to drive standards, to participate in the creation of standards, to adopt standards, which would actually allow our customers the benefits of having an open, scalable, secure, portable cloud system is what is actually driving us to be there in this forum.
How far do analysts think that CloudE 1.0 can accelerate the path to an open cloud environment?
I think it provides effectively a signal light. And in many ways, if you're able to provide that signal light, then people have an understanding of something that they might aim for. You're going to have relative levels of maturity. Equally, you're going to have the politics around whether or not people want to achieve it in its entirety. But in doing so, it allows them a benchmark, something that they can provide a metric of success against. And over time, if they can articulate people's relative relationship to that metric of success, then it almost provides a compelling situation for everybody to compete. And those that capitalise on it and move first, I think have got a great PR or marketing story that will resonate well with CIOs that are facing complexity challenges.
We need a framework. That's absolutely fundamental. If you look at all the standards and the development in the industry beforehand, we have to have that coordination. We do need to have the independence, if you like, the neutrality to the initiative. And the framework certainly looks like it's going in the right direction. It's early days, very early days, but it has the backing of the right players. If you look at the group that are supporting it, definitely, I think, a very, very promising framework.
I think the journey towards any sort of standardized platform in any area, be it network, be it cloud, is driven by a number of staged initiatives. And I think CloudE is a positive step in that direction. The proof of that step is going to be how many people actively engage with it and how completely they engage with it. If we just see cloud service providers giving us 25% of that standard and opting out of the remainder, then we're not going to be too successful. So it's really going to be a question of how aggressively we can get the major players to join into these and other similar initiatives.
The cloud is transforming world business faster than ever anticipated. Can the industry keep up?
I am very happy by the range of types of organizations that are joining the Cloud Ethernet Forum today. We get representation from service providers and vendors who are the typical participants in standards bodies, but what I'm really encouraged by is seeing organizations who have a very strong interest in cloud but have never participated before in standards bodies, and it's not really part of the DNA of cloud to date, indeed, standards bodies. Coming together, joining the CEF, saying this is something that's valuable to me, and participating and bringing insights that we would never have had as network service providers, equipment vendors, all the traditional stakeholders in such a standards body. So I think that the benefit is we have a multifaceted view of it from many different angles. We serve the needs of many different types of industry that participate in the overall cloud ecosystem. So this becomes a real opportunity to shape a standard that meets commercial objectives, but also gives a fully rounded view that covers not just the network or not just the data center or not just the cloud environment, but provides a fully end-to-end view of it. And you can see that developing more or less in real time in front of you, and also test your own environment directly against that standard also in real time. It's a really unique opportunity.